Computer. Okay, hi, this is Dr. Lynn Patrick. I'm here with Dr. Stephanie McCarter of the Environmental Health Center, Dallas. She's going to be one of the main speakers at the EMF Conference 2019 in September outside of Santa Cruz, California. We'll give you all the details. Thank you so much, Dr. McCarter, for talking with me. Please give us a little bit of history, for yourself, for the HCD, but also because this conference is dedicated to Dr. William J. Ray, a little bit about him and what you've learned from him, what you continue to do.
Sure, Dr. Patrick. So Dr. Ray I met in 2000, and Dr. Ray actually did the first paper on EMF with a human double-blind study, and he did that in 1991. So he was way ahead of his time. And he developed a shielded EMF room to test people for basically electrical sensitivity at that time, because there were no smart meters, there were no 2.5 gigahertz. It was basically people that were chemically sensitive reporting some symptoms that sounded like electrical sensitivity. So he created this very amazing basically an environmental controlled unit that has low EMF, and he shielded the room completely. So you have low pollutants, you have no EMF in the room, and he did double-blind studies to show the first indication that there is a possibility of electrical sensitivity. And since that time, since 1991, as you know, we've gotten this tremendous influx of a quintillion times what the Earth is putting out as a natural frequency. So Dr. Ray, before he died, he dedicated his life to the environmental medicine and identifying environmental triggers, and he was very, very concerned about electromagnetics, because that became more and more of an issue, especially with the tremendous influx that we've had of all these different frequencies and a number just in the last 5 years. And a lot of the studies that we're looking at, the scientists are concerned about, as you know, are looking from like 2005 to 2011. Well, we don't even have 2.5 gigahertz really in those studies. We're looking at 900 megahertz. So he wrote these books, and almost when he wrote these, it's almost already outdated, because we've got all these new frequencies and tremendous amount of users in the world. So this is an exponential rise in electromagnetic field.
And Dr. McCarter, just for our healthcare providers who might be listening who aren't familiar with electromagnetics, what is 2.5 gigahertz refer to?
Okay, so that is the millimeter wave frequency that you're getting on your iPhones and your smart meters. And so that's a billion cycles per second. So you think about regular electrical frequency in your outlet, that's 60 cycles per second. We're looking at AM radio, we're looking at 1,000 cycles per second. And then FM radio and the old cell phones was 1,000,000 cycles per second. So as we go up in frequencies, we go with shorter and shorter millimeter wave wavelength of the frequency, of that pulse that you're getting exposed to. And now we're knowing, as you know, that many scientists are finding that these very low frequencies, even way below the 2.5 gigahertz, are creating a lot of physiological effects on the cells, mitochondria. I mean, it's starting to just snowball, and how much stuff we're learning about what these things are doing to people and the cells and the ATP and the calcium channels, as Dr. Martin Paul has studied. So 2.5 gigahertz actually was used in studies to help see if it could make rats diabetic. And so now we're talking about 5G, and 5G is going to be 30 to 100 gigahertz. So we're looking at much, much shorter millimeter radiation. And so if you think about it, we're getting closer. I mean, 2.5 gigahertz is the same frequency as a microwave oven. And I tell patients, would you stick your head in a microwave oven? Nobody would do that. But the problem is everyone's saying, well, this is a different power density than it was from a microwave oven. But no one's looked at cumulative exposure. No one's looked at multiple devices in one person as far as their exposure. So we're really an experiment happening right now. And it's kind of scary, because when you think about it in those terms, why would you ever, unexpose yourself to that? And we do know, like Martin Paul was saying, the calcium channels are very concentrated, the reproductive organs. So I'm very concerned about future generations. I'm already seeing that at our clinic. Some of the cities that have 5G, we're already seeing young people coming to our clinic who happen to be, looking for an answer and not satisfied with the fact that when they go to multiple doctor visits, ER visits, and they're told it's stress, or, we can't find anything wrong with you. What they're having is a lot of symptoms of wireless radiation. So they're having the ringing in the ears, difficulty concentrating, heart palpitations. A lot of the patients we see are on computers 24/7, which is what these kids are growing up with today. And so, you know, these 20, 30-year-olds, they're telling me, you know, a few years ago before it got so bad, I did notice my arm would heat up or my ear would heat up or my head felt hot, and then it would go away. So people were just ignoring that. And I really wanted to get the word out about that, because those are signs that you're starting to get electrically sensitive. And my concern, like I said, is the amount. I wanted to just mention that Dr. Ray, right before he died, he published 2 books about electromagnetics. I'm going to just show you a couple of them. The first one is called Air Pollution and the Electromagnetic Phenomenon as Incitants. And what he was talking about is the effects of the cell. There's a harmonics effect on the cell membrane. So everything has a different harmonic effect. You've got electromagnetics, you've got molds, you've got chemicals. Air pollution, as we know, is becoming a much bigger problem. So people are getting exposed to more things and becoming more vulnerable. And then we're adding one more, you know, incitant against the cell membrane. And that's what the concern is. The other book is The EMF Effects from Power Sources and Electrosmog. And he's basically talking about the fact that, you know, you've got dirty electricity, which is coming from your LED lights, from solar inverters. All the electrical in the United States is connected, all the substations. So we have a lot of dirty electricity that flows through the cities. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Havas, as you know, and Dr. Sam Milham have found a lot of effects on diabetes, cancer, brain function. So then we have that. We have electrical fields. Then we have the magnetic fields. And now we have the radio frequency fields.
And just to put in a little plug for the book, the last one that you showed, that's available from CRC Press.
Yes.
And you can get it online. That's where I got my copy.
Yes.
And it's a medical textbook, but it's extremely, how can I say?
Packed with information. I mean,
brilliant.
Yes.
It's packed with information. And because I look in the medical literature, I can't find anything similar to this in the medical literature. It's really the brain of brilliant Dr. Ray, who's been doing this for 40 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, he started in 91. He already published a study. He knew it was coming. One of the things he did say to me even 10 years ago was that he was concerned about pain. He was concerned about young people, you know, shooting themselves or shooting each other. And, you know, we know that we see this happening now. And I asked him, you know, well, how do you know this is going to happen? And he said, because medications are all medicine uses medications. We treat symptoms, and medications are not going to be able to stabilize the cell membrane when you add this extra amount of exposure with wireless radiation.
So you're talking about mental health issues related to neuroinflammation because of the passage of these wavelengths through the blood-brain barrier.
Exactly. And we know now that, you know, the problem with molds and bacteria and all these things in the body is that they respond to this as well. And so if it's in the body, they're now finding we're getting more toxicity even in the body from electromagnetic exposure due, you know, to mold exposure in the body and other bacteria, even yeast. And, you know, nature is smart. It says, wait, this isn't normal. This isn't, you know, natural. And so they put out a defense mechanism. And that's what we're seeing.
So I want to make sure I understand this. When you are exposed to multiple toxicants, and EMF is one of them, those toxicants, particularly if you have mold growing as part of your microbiome,
correct,
those dysbiotic organisms,
yes,
meaning they shouldn't be there in large amounts, will flourish and proliferate because of their exposure to that toxin. Do I have that right?
Exactly, right. And Joel Moskowitz, he's talked about that. They think there's going to be more resistance to antibiotics as a result of this. Trevor Marshall, he runs the Autoimmune Research Foundation, and he's talked about the fact that he was looking at autoimmune disease and started realizing there was a connection with the microbiome. And then he started realizing the microbiome was responding to these very, very low frequencies, much lower than what we're being exposed to. So yeah, it's a big concern.
So we're putting on this conference in Dr. Ray's memory, and because he asked me to do this, that's why I'm doing it. It wasn't my idea, that's for sure.
And one of the things Dr. Ray said is, you know, we have the technology, we have the intelligence to make this safe.
So what we're going to be teaching healthcare providers at this conference is, how do we recognize this in our patients?
Correct.
How do we identify it, and then how do we treat it? Now, you're working in kind of a world-class clinic, you know, that Dr. Ray started, EHC Dallas, where you have Do you still use that exposure facility that Dr. Ray used for
Yes.
exposure?
Yes, we
So,
do.
are you not the only facility in the United States or the world that has that kind of testing environment?
I believe so. Yeah.
In the world, globally.
Yeah.
So can you talk just a little bit about that, how you utilize it and how you know, in essence, have learned from Dr. Ray about identifying and treating EMF-related illness?
Right. So the big thing with Dr. Ray that he emphasized with it was how much environment is an issue. And if you create a really clean environment, you can really find what's triggering people's symptoms. So he made this unit where you have low off-gas materials. So it's mostly, porcelain walls that are, fired at over 2,000 degrees. So hard porcelain, soft porcelain didn't work. People reacted. So we have tile floors. We have a filtration system of the air where we have 5 times lower levels of particulate matter, pesticide, pollutants. I had a patient recently came in with a air quality monitor and there was 0 VOC, 0 formaldehyde. So taking down that load is super important to help, minimize any other variables. And then he created a copper room, a shielded room with no magnetic fields, no wireless. And so we actually do these double blind studies. We are not able to do a smart meter frequency at this time, but we do basically 5, 10, and 60 hertz. And we do cognition, a little digital a test, and we also do vitals. And it's been very consistent for people who are sensitive. We do find that it does trigger symptoms. 7.8 hertz is normal, natural, but we are seeing some people who, when we take away, because when you're in that room, there's pretty much no frequency at all. That can be, in people who are sensitive, that can be a factor as well. So you need that natural Earth's frequency. And my concern is with 5G, are we going to have that same natural, are we going to affect the Earth's frequency,
Yeah, well, we can only do what we can do at the moment.
Right.
But when you are going to be speaking at EHS, are you going to be able to present some cases from your clinic?
Yes.
Excuse me. When you're going to be at the EMF conference, are you
Yes.
going to be able to present some cases
Yes.
related to EMF sensitivity?
For sure, yeah, because we're getting some really severe, severely sensitive people. And I wanted to mention too that, a lot of it has to do with heavy metals. The younger people we see, a lot of them have a lot of heavy metal exposure. Implants, another big factor, because more and more people are having implants, and a lot of the metal implants especially are very conductive at these frequencies. The other thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of patients that are getting in these 5G cities are talking about their skin heating up. And that's one of the things that, Ben Ishay and the guys and the doctors that are studying this in Israel have talked about. The sweat glands are acting like antennas. And so I want people to be aware of that, because if your skin's heating up, that's really important as indicator there's something going on.
That's a direct thermal effect.
Yes.
Exposure. It's
right.
What they originally thought was the only thing we should test was the thermal effect.
Right.
And that's an obvious thermal effect. Well, I'm very, very excited and, honored to be putting this conference together. I really think that you're going to be one of the key speakers, and I can't wait.
And Dr. Seymour will be presenting some cases too. And
yes, Dr. Beth Seymour from EHC Dallas, your colleague.
Yes, and Dr. Ray will be very happy that this is happening. I know.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr.
Okay.
McCarter. We'll see you in
Dr.
September.
Patrick.
Okay.